I'll just go. All right, this is the O.J. Simpson trial. I'm sure everyone here is very familiar with that. I'm sure most people here think he's guilty, but today I'm here to tell y'all why he's innocent. Okay. It is me and Tyler on the defense versus Cameron on the prosecution. Cameron's gonna start us off.
Cameron, you're on the prosecution.
Yes, ma'am. Orenthal James Simpson, well known as O.J. Simpson, is guilty. He murdered his ex-wife Nicole Brown, as well as a friend of hers, Ron Goldberg. He did so out of anger and hatred, as Nicole refused to reconcile their marriage. By the end of this trial, you will see that Mr. Simpson is guilty.
Father, mentor, and star football player O.J. Simpson is not guilty. O.J. was just eating with his friend Brian Callen at McDonald's. He was also practicing his golfing and preparing to go on a trip on the night of the murder. Then his life came crashing down because of a corrupt and racist cop looking for a big name arrest. By the end of this trial, you will realize why Jason Simpson, O.J.'s oldest son, was guilty.
Yeah, Jason Simpson is who we're accusing. All right.
So some evidence that we have, Mr. Goldman's blood was found in Mr. Simpson's Ford Bronco. That signifies that Mr. Goldman was killed by O.J. It doesn't make sense for Mr. Goldman's blood to just appear in his car, other than, okay. Did you do it?
No, I didn't do it.
Okay, I'm not done. It doesn't make sense for it to be there other than O.J. having it maybe on his body and leaving it in his car. Okay, next one. Footprints found at the scene were a size 12, the size that O.J. Simpson wore. They also had the same exact, or at least a very similar sole as shoes that he owned. They were Bruno Magli shoes. It was an Italian brand. Only, I think, 200 to 300 of those shoes in that size 12, were shipped to the U.S. and like sold.
Sorry, you think?
It's between 200 and 300.
Okay. You think? All right, the blood type recognized at the crime scene that he was just talking about was O.J.'s blood type, but it's important to realize that all blood types are hereditary. So if the mom and the dad are both blood type A, the child will be blood type A as well, which was the case for Jason's mom and his dad. They were both blood type A, which means that Jason also is blood type A, which means that that would be the exact same blood type found at the crime scene. The footprints found at the crime scene are unusable as evidence because both Jason Simpson and O.J. have the exact same shoe size, 12 US, and then none of the 15 fingerprints at the crime scene lined up with O.J.'s, which is pretty damning. The blood evidence placed on Nicole Simpson's sock in O.J.'s own house and Ford Bronco was planted by racist officer Mark Furman. What gets that? Do you have the script?
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Furman, you're being called as a witness, you'll sit on the stand. Do you swear that everything you say will be the truth?
Yes. Detective Furman, was the testimony that you gave at the preliminary hearing at this case completely truthful?
I plead the fifth.
Have you ever falsified a police report?
I plead the fifth.
Is it your intention to assert your Fifth Amendment privilege to all my questions with respect?
I plead the fifth.
One more question, Your Honor. Detective Furman, did you plant or manufacture any evidence in this case?
I plead the fifth.
No more questions.
Thank you, step down, unless the prosecution has questions.
No, sorry.
No questions?
The parties say I plead the fifth.
Ron Goldman was a black belt in karate and he took over 6 whole years of training. And Ron had multiple deep bruises and swollen hands, indicating hard blows to the assailant and a long fight occurring. The following day, O.J. Simpson voluntarily stripped at the LAPD and had no marks or bruises, indicating he was in a fight.
So who'd he fight? It's like,
Defensive. The night of the murder, Jason Simpson made a time card, handwritten despite the time cards at his job being electronic, and the clock was working. This means he could change what time he showed up for work, took his break, or clocked out. To follow up this evidence, Jason Simpson has no alibi and nobody can tell where he was during the exact time of the crime. Time frame being 9:45 to 10:05 p.m. Jason Simpson left a note determined by handwriting experts to be his, and also wrote about killing anyone who threatened his loved ones.
You can read that out. Yeah, just go ahead.
Dear Jason, there are 3 of us here that I know about. Question marks. I want solace. Work with solace was a question marks. Now I am a
They
failure.
couldn't read it. If that's what that means.
I don't know. Now I'm a failure. I cannot do anything right. I cannot learn from it at all. I cannot remember. Alcohol is the root of all my shortcomings. I know I'm a good guy.
Alright, to follow up with that, Jason is diagnosed with intermediate rage disorder, which is basically uncontrollable without drugs. And in this case, he used a drug called Depakote. I'm probably butchering that name. But that was found in his trash, by the way. That's how we got that evidence. Jason abused alcohol, cocaine, and ecstasy, and was arrested for a DUI and assault with a deadly weapon on his boss right before the crime with a knife. He attacked his boss with a knife. And he started doing that since the age of 14. So, there's some mental problems. What? No, that was his boss. Jason's cap, as you can see in this picture and many other pictures online, he's often found wearing that cap. The exact same one found at the crime scene. It's not the exact same, but it's identical. So OJ never wore any caps like that, so it's not really full evidence, but it's pretty good. And this is after, a couple months after the crime scene. He's using a different knit cap, just a couple months after. Jason Simpson's reliance to Depakote is blatant after being sent to the ER for hearing voices in his head and stopped taking it 2 months before the murder, which means he was off his medication. Private investigator W. Deere searched Jason Simpson's storage locker and found a knife matching the exact description of the murder weapon. After examination of Jason's knife found by a world-renowned forensic scientist, they determined that the butt of the knife appears to match the blow/injury Nicole Simpson suffered on the top of her head, which is right there in that picture. And then right here it talks about how he ran out of meds from a doctor's note.
Motive. When it comes to a murder, the most important thing to consider is motive. In this case, Jason's relationship with his stepmom, Nicole, is questionable. And the night of the murder, Jason expected Nicole to dine in at his restaurant, but instead picked a different one without telling him.
Alright, so our rebuttal here. While it may be true that Jason Simpson wasn't 100% right in the head, that doesn't necessarily mean that he committed a murder. The amount of evidence that the defense has is overwhelming. O.J. Simpson had bought a knife matching the description of the murder weapon, quote unquote a 15-inch stiletto knife with a stag handle, just 6 weeks earlier, and there were receipts of that. This was the murder weapon, not the knife found in Jason Simpson's locker. Yeah. The defense claims that a long fight occurred between Mr. Goldman and Mr. Simpson. However, one would think that such a struggle over such a long period of time would gather attention from any nearby people. Given the circumstances, it would most likely last seconds, not minutes. Mr. Simpson had a knife, Mr. Goldman had no weapon. Therefore, the defense's claim is extremely unlikely that a long fight occurred. After all this evidence, it should be apparent that O.J. Simpson is guilty. There was blood evidence in the murder weapon that was purchased 6 weeks earlier by O.J. Simpson. Trust your gut and understand that O.J. Simpson is guilty of taking these lives.
Jason Simpson needs help because only someone with his level of insanity could do such a crime and let his dad take the blame for all of it. At the end of the day, O.J. Simpson did what any loving father would do for his son and protected his son who didn't have any control over his emotions or actions to a certain extent. The most important takeaway is that O.J. could not have committed this murder.
That's it.
Alright, so
He said, and the murder weapon was purchased.